The billionaire asked a question in Arabic to test the maid's daughter, but when she answered fluently, everyone froze in disbelief. Just before we start, drop a flag emoji that represents your country. The crystal chandelier in Marcus Blackwell's Beverly Hills mansion caught the afternoon light, scattering rainbow prisms across marble floors that probably cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. His guests, tech moguls, real estate tycoons, and old money aristocrats, sipped Dom Perignon and laughed at jokes that weren't particularly funny, but were delivered by people worth listening to. Marcus himself, at 34, stood at the center of attention as always, his tailored Tom Ford suit fitting perfectly over his gym-sculpted frame. His dark hair was styled with just enough product to look effortless, his smile revealing teeth whitened to an almost unnatural brightness. He'd made his billions in cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence, riding the wave at exactly the right moment, but he preferred people think of him as a genius rather than lucky. Today's gathering was meant to impress potential investors in his latest venture, and everything had to be perfect. That's when he noticed her. The little girl was small for 8 years old, with tangled brown hair pulled into a messy ponytail and wearing a faded pink t-shirt that had seen better days 3 years ago. She stood near the French doors leading to the garden, clutching a worn backpack that probably held coloring books or cheap toys. Her sneakers had holes near the toes, and her jeans were clearly hand-me-downs, rolled up at the ankles because they were too long. She was the daughter of his cleaning lady, Maria Torres. Maria herself was in her early 30s but looked older, worn down by years of scrubbing other people's toilets and raising a child alone. She'd brought Emma today because her usual babysitter had canceled, and she'd begged Marcus's assistant to allow it, promising the girl would be invisible, silent, no trouble at all. But Emma wasn't invisible to Marcus. She was a stain on his perfect afternoon. "Maria!" he called out sharply, his voice cutting through the ambient jazz music and polite conversation. Several guests turned to look. "I thought we discussed this. No children at work functions." Maria hurried over from the kitchen, her face flushed with embarrassment, her cleaning uniform, a simple gray dress and white apron, making her look like something from another century compared to the designer-clad guests. "Mr. Blackwell, I'm so sorry. My sitter got sick and I had nowhere else. Emma's been very quiet. She won't disturb anyone, I promise." Marcus's friend Trevor, a venture capitalist with too much cologne and not enough conscience, smirked. "Come on, Marcus. Let the kid stay. She's not hurting anyone." But Marcus saw an opportunity. He'd been looking for a way to demonstrate his worldliness to his guests, particularly to Sheikh Ahmad al-Mansouri, a potential investor from Dubai who'd been skeptical about Marcus's claims of being a citizen of the world. What better way than a little impromptu entertainment? "Actually," Marcus said, his smile turning predatory, "let her stay. Come here, sweetheart." Emma glanced at her mother, who nodded reluctantly, then slowly walked toward the billionaire. Her steps were hesitant, like a small animal approaching something dangerous. The guests formed a loose circle around them, sensing something interesting was about to happen. Marcus crouched down to Emma's eye level, though his body language screamed condescension. "What's your name?" "Emma, sir." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Emma, these are very important people here. They're from all over the world. Do you know what that means?" He didn't wait for her answer. "It means they speak many different languages." "I speak 5 languages myself. How many do you speak, Emma?" The girl's brown eyes darted to her mother again, then back to Marcus. "Just English, sir." "Just English," Marcus repeated, standing up and addressing his audience. "You see, this is the problem with our education system. Children growing up in America, the most powerful country in the world, and they speak only one language." Several guests nodded approvingly at his impromptu speech. Sheikh Ahmad spoke up, his accented English precise and elegant. "In my country, children learn Arabic, English, and often French or Hindi. Education is paramount." Marcus saw his opening. "Exactly. Sheikh Ahmad, would you mind asking our young friend here a simple question in Arabic? Let's see how a typical American child handles it." The sheikh looked uncomfortable, recognizing the setup for what it was. "Mr. Blackwell, I don't think..." Please, Marcus insisted, his smile never wavering. It's educational. Maria's hand covered her mouth, tears already forming in her eyes. She knew what was coming. Public humiliation for her daughter, a reminder of their place in the world. But she couldn't protest, couldn't risk losing this job. They needed the money too desperately. Sheikh Ahmad sighed and turned to Emma, speaking in Arabic with clear reluctance. Child, I apologize for this. Can you tell me what you would like to be when you grow up? The room went silent, waiting for the inevitable confusion. The stammered, I don't understand. The tears. It was cruel entertainment for bored rich people, and everyone knew it, but no one stopped it. What happened next changed everything. Emma's posture shifted. Her shoulders straightened, her chin lifted, and her brown eyes met the Sheikh's with sudden intensity. When she spoke, her voice was clear, confident, and completely unexpected. أنا أعتذر يا سيدي، لكن هذا السؤال معقد جدا. الطموحات تتغير مع نمو الإنسان وتطور فهمه للعالم. حاليا، أريد أن أكون شخصا يساعد الآخرين على فهم أن القيمة الحقيقية للإنسان لا تقاس بثروته أو لغته، بل بطيبة قلبه وعمق تفكيره. The Arabic flowed from her mouth like she'd spoken it since birth, each word perfectly pronounced, each phrase grammatically flawless. But it wasn't just the language. It was the content. She'd essentially said, I apologize, sir, but that question is quite complex. Ambitions change as humans grow and develop their understanding of the world. Currently, I want to be someone who helps others understand that a person's true value isn't measured by their wealth or language, but by the kindness of their heart and depth of their thinking. Sheikh Ahmad's champagne glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The sound seemed to break the spell that had frozen everyone in place. By Allah, the Sheikh whispered, his face pale. How? How is this possible? Marcus's confident smirk had vanished, replaced by shock that bordered on anger. That's impossible. She must have memorized something. She doesn't actually understand. Oh, she understands, Sheikh Ahmad interrupted, his voice sharp. That wasn't a simple phrase. She used classical Arabic with philosophical nuance. She criticized your little game while answering my question. This child. He knelt beside Emma, studying her face with wonder and confusion. Child, where did you learn this? Emma's confidence evaporated as quickly as it had appeared. She shrank back, suddenly just a scared 8-year-old again. I heard things. I remember things. What things? Marcus demanded, his voice too loud, too aggressive. The other guests were murmuring now, their phones coming out to record what was happening. Did your mother teach you party tricks? Is this some kind of scam? Leave her alone. Maria finally found her voice, rushing forward to pull Emma behind her. She's just a child. You wanted to embarrass her, and now you're angry because it doesn't make sense. Marcus's composure was cracking. In his world, everything made sense. Money made sense. Power made sense. An 8-year-old girl from the project speaking fluent classical Arabic with philosophical sophistication did not make sense. Children don't just remember entire languages. Where did she really learn this? Trevor stepped forward, his phone still recording. Marcus, man, you need to calm down. This is incredible. Do you know what you have here? This kid could be some kind of genius, a prodigy. But Marcus didn't want a prodigy. He wanted things to go back to making sense. Wanted his worldview restored, where intelligence and education required money and resources, where cleaning ladies' daughters knew their place. Emma was crying now, overwhelmed by the attention and the shouting. Maria held her daughter close, whispering comfort in Spanish, another language Marcus realized too late he should have known Emma might understand. Dr. Patricia Chen, a neuroscientist among the guests, pushed through the crowd. Everyone step back. You're frightening the child. She approached Emma gently, professionally. Emma, honey, my name is Dr. Chen. I study how brains work. What you just did is extremely rare. I'd like to help you if that's okay. Would you mind speaking with me sometime? Emma nodded, still pressed against her mother. Maria, Dr. Chen continued, your daughter may have what we call hyperlexia, or perhaps even more significant cognitive gifts. With your permission, I'd like to run some tests. No tests, Maria said firmly. No doctors. We're leaving. Emma, we're going home. Wait, Marcus called out, but it was too late. Maria was already pushing through the crowd, Emma's hand firmly in hers, heading for the service entrance they'd used to arrive. As mother and daughter disappeared, the mansion erupted in chaos. Guests talked over each other, theories flying. Sheikh Ahmad sat heavily in a nearby chair, still looking stunned. Trevor was already posting the video online with hashtags about genius child and hidden prodigy. Marcus stood alone in the center of his expensive living room, surrounded by luxury and power and influence, and for the first time in years felt completely out of control. Because the little girl with holes in her shoes had just revealed something impossible. And impossible things, in Marcus Blackwell's experience, were either elaborate tricks or threats to everything he thought he understood about the world. In his penthouse bedroom that night, unable to sleep, Marcus stared at his ceiling and tried to rationalize what he'd witnessed. But every logical explanation crumbled under the weight of what he'd heard. Emma hadn't just spoken Arabic. She'd spoken it better than many native speakers, with a vocabulary and understanding that should have required years of immersive study. And that's when the first terrible question entered his mind. What else could she do? Maria Torres's apartment was 17 miles and an entire universe away from Marcus Blackwell's mansion. The building in East Los Angeles had cracks in the exterior walls, graffiti that management never quite managed to remove, and a broken elevator that forced them to climb 4 flights of stairs. Their home was a 1-bedroom apartment where Emma slept on a fold-out couch in the living room, and the kitchen was barely large enough for one person to stand in comfortably. But it was theirs. And tonight, as Maria locked the 3 deadbolts on their front door, it felt like a fortress protecting them from a world that had suddenly become dangerous. Emma sat on her makeshift bed, still wearing her worn-out clothes, her backpack beside her. She hadn't spoken during the bus ride home, hadn't responded to her mother's attempts at conversation. She just stared at her hands, occasionally touching her throat as if surprised by what had come out of it. Mija, Maria said softly, sitting beside her daughter. In the harsh fluorescent lighting of their apartment, she looked exhausted, the events of the day adding years to her face. You have to tell me the truth now. Where did you learn Arabic? Did someone teach you? Did you watch videos online? Emma shook her head. Nobody taught me, Mama. I know things. I've always known things. What do you mean you know things? The 8-year-old struggled to find words for something she'd kept hidden her entire short life. It's like when you hear a song on the radio, and you just know all the words even though you never learned them. But it's everything. Languages and math and other stuff. It's all just there in my head and I don't know where it came from. Maria's hand trembled as she touched her daughter's face. How long? How long have you been hiding this? Forever? Emma's voice was small. I knew I was different when I was really little. Other kids at kindergarten were learning letters and I could read whole books. I could do math problems the teacher wrote on the board before she even explained them. But you always looked so worried about money, and I didn't want to be. More worry. Tears streamed down Maria's face. Oh, baby, you've been carrying this alone? Thinking you had to hide being special? I'm not special, Emma said quietly. I'm weird. Special is when you're good at soccer or you can sing pretty. Weird is when you correct your teacher's grammar and she gets mad at you. Weird is when you understand the Spanish conversations the other moms have and they don't know you can hear them talking about how your mama is just a cleaning lady. I learned to stay quiet, to pretend to be normal. Maria pulled Emma into a fierce hug, her mind racing. She'd always known her daughter was bright, learned to read early, asked complicated questions, seemed to absorb information like a sponge. But this was something else entirely. Something that frightened her because she knew what the world did to extraordinary things that didn't fit into neat categories. Mama, Emma whispered, am I going to get in trouble? Is Mr. Blackwell going to make you lose your job? Don't you worry about that, Maria said, though she was terrified of exactly that possibility. The job at Marcus's mansion paid better than her other cleaning gigs, and she'd recently taken on 2 additional part-time jobs just to cover Emma's school supplies and their rising rent. We'll figure it out. but she had no idea how. The next morning, Maria's phone began ringing before sunrise. The first call was from Marcus Blackwell's assistant demanding, that Maria bring Emma back to the mansion. The second was from Trevor, the venture capitalist, offering an obscene amount of money for exclusive rights to Emma's story. The third was from a producer at a local news station who'd somehow gotten her number. She ignored them all. By noon, Emma's video had gone viral. The footage Trevor had posted showed the exact moment of Emma's Arabic response, and the internet had exploded. Hashtags like genius child and hidden prodigy were trending. Amateur linguists on social media confirmed Emma's Arabic was legitimate and sophisticated. Educational psychologists speculated about her cognitive abilities. News outlets picked up the story. 8-year-old cleaning lady's daughter speaks fluent Arabic, shocks billionaire's party. And Marcus Blackwell was not handling it well. In his home office, surrounded by screens showing stock tickers and cryptocurrency charts, Marcus obsessively watched the video for the 100th time. Each viewing made him angrier. The way Emma had looked at him with those intelligent brown eyes, the way she'd essentially called him shallow in perfect Arabic, the way his carefully constructed image had crumbled in front of potential investors. Trevor burst into the office without knocking. "Dude, have you seen the numbers? This video has 15 million views." "The story's everywhere. CNN wants interviews. The sheikh called me. He's fascinated by the kid." "Marcus, this could actually be good for us if we play it right." "Good for us?" Marcus spun his chair around, his expression dark. "I look like an idiot trying to humiliate a child who turned out to be some kind of savant. My social media is full of people calling me elitist, privileged, out of touch. Someone made a meme of my face when she started speaking Arabic." "So we change the narrative," Trevor said, sitting down uninvited. "We make you the guy who discovered her talent, the benevolent billionaire who's going to fund her education, unlock her potential. You become the hero of the story instead of the villain." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his mind working through the angles. Trevor was right. There was a way to spin this. But something else nagged at him, something beyond public relations. "Trevor, how does an 8-year-old girl living in poverty speak better Arabic than most native speakers? Where did she learn it? Who cares? Maybe she's got some photographic memory thing, or she's a savant, or—" "I care," Marcus interrupted, "because it doesn't make sense, and things that don't make sense are usually hiding something important. What if this isn't about a gifted child? What if her mother has been running some kind of long con?" Trevor laughed. "A con? Maria Torres? The woman scrubs your toilets for minimum wage. What's the end game of that con?" But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something crucial. In his world, nothing happened without a reason, without someone's agenda driving it. And he'd become a billionaire by being the person who saw the angles others missed. "Get me everything on Maria Torres," Marcus said. "Employment history, financial records, background check, and everything. And I want to talk to Emma again." "Marcus, that's creepy." "She's 8. She's a puzzle," Marcus corrected, "and I'm very good at solving puzzles." That evening, as Maria helped Emma with her 3rd-grade homework, problems Emma could solve in her sleep but pretended to struggle with, their apartment buzzer rang. Maria's stomach dropped. She knew somehow who it would be. Through the intercom, Marcus Blackwell's voice was smooth, almost friendly. "Maria, it's Marcus. I'd like to talk. Please. No cameras, no drama. Just a conversation." "Go away," Maria said flatly. "I'm prepared to offer you $50,000 for 1 hour of Emma's time, just to understand what happened. That's it. $50,000. Maria's annual salary from all her jobs combined was maybe $35,000. $50,000 could change everything, catch up on bills, maybe even move to a better neighborhood with better schools. "Mama, don't," Emma said, reading her mother's expression. "Please." But Maria's hand was already reaching for the door. Marcus Blackwell stood in their doorway wearing jeans and a simple black t-shirt, trying to look casual and approachable. It didn't work. Wealth clung to him like expensive cologne. In his watch, his shoes, the confidence in his posture. He looked around their tiny apartment with barely concealed surprise at how people actually lived. "Thank you for seeing me," he said. "You're not welcome here. Maria replied, not moving from the doorway. Say what you came to say. Marcus pulled out his phone, showing her a bank transfer screen. 50,000, as promised. I just need to talk to Emma. To understand. Understand what? That you tried to humiliate my daughter and it backfired? Fair, Marcus admitted. I was arrogant. I apologize. But Emma, what you did, that's not normal. That's not even gifted. That's something else. And I need to know what. Emma appeared behind her mother. Why do you need to know? Marcus met her gaze directly. Because I spent my whole life being told I was special, that I was smarter than everyone else. I built an empire on being the smartest person in the room. And then you spoke, and I realized, I don't know anything. I don't know how minds work. I don't know where intelligence comes from. I don't know what's possible, and that terrifies me. It was perhaps the first genuine thing he'd said since arriving. Come in, Emma said softly, ignoring her mother's sharp look. But you have to tell the truth, too. Why do you really care? Marcus stepped into their modest living room and sat on the worn couch. He was quiet for a moment before answering. Because if you're real, if this gift of yours is real, then everything I thought I knew about success and intelligence is wrong. And if I'm wrong about that, what else am I wrong about? Emma sat across from him, this tiny 8-year-old facing down a billionaire. Ask your questions. How many languages do you speak? Emma's answer was matter-of-fact, almost casual. 18 fluently, another 12 I can understand but don't speak as well. The number hit Marcus like a physical blow. 30 languages? I hear them once or twice and they just stick. I was 3 when I realized other people didn't work that way. What else can you do? Emma glanced at her mother, who nodded reluctantly. Math. Any kind. I can do complex calculations in my head. I remember everything I read or hear. I taught myself piano by watching YouTube videos on the library computer, but we don't have a piano to practice. I can identify any classical music piece after hearing 4 or 5 notes. I understand physics concepts I shouldn't be able to understand yet. She paused. I'm really good at patterns, at seeing how things connect. Marcus leaned forward. Have you been tested? By doctors, psychologists? We can't afford doctors, Maria said bitterly. We can barely afford food. Whatever Emma is, whatever gifts she has, they don't pay the rent. They could, Marcus said quietly. Emma could be famous. She could do interviews, write books, have a career in linguistics or mathematics or... She's 8, Maria's voice rose. She should be playing with dolls and watching cartoons, not performing for rich people. But she's not like other 8-year-olds, Marcus pressed. You know that. She could change the world. Advance science, education, understanding. Or she could be picked apart by researchers and media and people like you who see her as a puzzle to solve instead of a child to protect. Maria moved between Marcus and Emma protectively. I've seen what happens to child prodigies. They burn out, they break down, they end up... Mama, it's okay, Emma interrupted softly. She looked at Marcus with an intensity that shouldn't exist in someone so young. You want to know the hardest part, Mr. Blackwell? It's not having all this information in my head, it's knowing I have to hide it. Every single day at school I have to pretend to struggle with simple addition, while my mind is solving differential equations for fun. I have to act excited when I learn something I've known for years. I have to watch my mama work herself to exhaustion cleaning houses when I could probably calculate better investment strategies than your financial advisors. Marcus stared at her, genuinely speechless for the second time in 2 days. So yes, Emma continued, I'm different. I'm strange. But I'm still just a kid who wants to help her mom and maybe sometimes not have to pretend to be less than I am. Her voice broke slightly. Do you know how lonely it is to be 8 years old and have no one to talk to about what you're really thinking? The billionaire sat back, something shifting in his expression. For just a moment, the defensive anger fell away, replaced by something almost like recognition. Actually, he said quietly, I think I might. The room went silent. Outside, car horns blared and someone's radio played mariachi music too loudly, the sounds of their neighborhood going on as normal. While inside this cramped apartment, something important was shifting. Finally, Marcus stood. I'm not going to offer you money. Not yet. Because that would feel like I'm buying something and I don't want to buy whatever this is. He looked at Emma. But I do want to help. Real help. Not publicity stunts or exploitation. What do you need? Emma's answer was immediate. I need my mama to not work 3 jobs. I need to go to a school where I can actually learn things. And I need people to stop looking at me like I'm either a freak or a performing monkey. Done, Marcus said. I'll pay your rent for the next year. I'll fund Emma's education at any school you choose. And I promise, no media, no exploitation. Just let me figure out how to help. He paused at the door. And Emma? Thank you. For reminding me that intelligence isn't about how much money you have. It's about what you do with what you've been given. After he left, Maria sank onto the couch, her head in her hands. Mija, I don't trust him. Rich men don't give without expecting something back. I know, Mama, Emma said, curling up beside her mother. But maybe just this once we can accept help? You're so tired. I can see it. Maria pulled her daughter close, tears falling silently. She'd spent 8 years protecting this brilliant, impossible child, hiding her light so the world wouldn't hurt her. But maybe Emma's light was too bright to hide anymore. As night fell over Los Angeles in apartments and mansions across the city, people were thinking about the same 8-year-old girl. Some with wonder, some with suspicion, and one billionaire with a growing obsession to understand how someone with nothing could possess something so priceless. What none of them knew yet was that Emma's Arabic response was just the tip of an iceberg. The truth about what this child could do, and more importantly, why she could do it, would shatter assumptions, expose buried secrets, and reveal that sometimes genius isn't born. Sometimes it's inherited from a past that refuses to stay hidden. Marcus Blackwell had always believed that information was power, and he'd spent the past week gathering every scrap of information about Maria Torres that money could buy. What he found only deepened the mystery. Maria's official record was startlingly sparse. She'd appeared in Los Angeles 8 years ago, heavily pregnant and alone, with no previous work history, no family references, and no explanation of where she'd come from. Her background check showed a social security number that was legitimate, but recently issued as if she'd materialized out of thin air. Before Emma's birth, Maria Torres simply didn't exist in any database Marcus's investigators could access. It's like she's running from something, Trevor said, spreading printouts across Marcus's desk. Or someone. Witness protection, maybe? Abusive ex-husband? Marcus studied a grainy hospital photo from Emma's birth certificate. Maria looked younger, terrified, alone. Or she's hiding something about Emma's father. There's no father listed on the birth certificate, no name, no information. So what? Plenty of single mothers don't list the father. But plenty of single mothers also exist before their child is born, Marcus countered. Maria Torres has no digital footprint before Emma. No Facebook, no old addresses, no credit history. That takes effort to achieve. That takes someone deliberately erasing their past. The door to Marcus's office opened, and Dr. Patricia Chen walked in without knocking. The neuroscientist had been persistent since the party, calling daily with requests to study Emma. We need to talk about that child, she said, not bothering with pleasantries. I've been researching hyperlexia, savant syndrome, eidetic memory. Nothing fully explains what Emma can do. Multiple languages that complex, that numerous, with that level of fluency. It's unprecedented. So what's your theory? Marcus asked. Dr. Chen sat down, her expression serious. I think Emma's abilities might be genetic, inherited from one or both parents. Which means somewhere in her lineage there's someone else with extraordinary cognitive abilities, maybe someone famous in academic circles or research or someone who had a reason to disappear, Marcus finished. His mind was racing now, connections forming. What if Maria isn't just some random cleaning lady? What if she's hiding Emma's heritage because the father was someone important, someone who people might recognize? That's a huge leap, Trevor warned. You're starting to sound obsessed. I am obsessed, Marcus admitted, because that little girl shouldn't exist. Her abilities defy everything we understand about child development and language acquisition, and I need to know why. What Marcus didn't say aloud was that Emma haunted him. Every night he replayed their conversation in that cramped apartment. The loneliness in her voice when she talked about pretending to be less than she was. The exhaustion in Maria's eyes. The way they lived in poverty, while Emma's mind held treasures worth millions. It felt wrong. All of it. And Marcus Blackwell had built his fortune on recognizing when things didn't add up. That afternoon he paid a visit to Emma's school. Washington Elementary was underfunded and overcrowded, with cracked paint and outdated textbooks. Emma's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, agreed to meet with him during her lunch break. "Emma Torres," Mrs. Rodriguez said, her expression troubled. "That child breaks my heart every day." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "She's brilliant, Mr. Blackwell. Even before your video went viral, I knew it. She finishes tests in minutes while other kids struggle for the full hour. She corrects my grammar. Politely, mind you, but still. She solves math problems in her head that fifth graders couldn't do with a calculator." The teacher's voice dropped. "But she hides it. She deliberately gets questions wrong. She dumbs herself down so the other kids won't think she's weird." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. "She told me she's lonely." "She is. She can't connect with her peers because she's operating on a completely different level. But she can't skip grades because her mother refuses. Says Emma needs normal childhood experiences. So she sits in my class, bored out of her mind, pretending to struggle with basic multiplication." Mrs. Rodriguez leaned forward. "Mr. Blackwell, whatever you're planning to do with your money or influence, please, help that child. She's wasting away in here." As Marcus left the school, his phone rang. His private investigator, a former FBI agent named Sarah Winters, had found something. "You need to see this in person," she said. "I'm sending you an address. It's about Emma's father." The address led to a cemetery in Pasadena. Sarah was waiting by a gravestone that read, "Dr. David Thornton, 1975-2016, beloved researcher and father of modern cognitive neuroscience." David Thornton, Sarah explained, was one of the most brilliant minds of his generation. MIT graduate at 19, PhD by 22. He pioneered research into genetic markers for intelligence and conducted controversial experiments on enhancing cognitive function. He died in a car accident 8 years ago. She paused significantly. Exactly 3 weeks before Emma Torres was born. Marcus stared at the grave, his mind reeling. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying Maria Torres worked at Thornton's research facility in Boston. She was a janitor there, same as she is everywhere else. And 3 weeks after Thornton died, she disappeared. Quit her job, left no forwarding address, and showed up in Los Angeles with no past." Sarah handed Marcus a folder. "Inside are photos from Thornton's memorial service. Look at the woman in the back third row." Marcus opened the folder. The photo showed mourners at a funeral, and there, partially obscured but unmistakable, was Maria Torres. Younger, pregnant, crying. "Oh my God," Marcus whispered. "Emma is Thornton's daughter." "There's more," Sarah said grimly. Thornton's research was shut down after his death amid allegations of ethical violations, rumors of human genetic experiments, unauthorized trials. The university buried everything, paid settlements to prevent lawsuits. Whatever Thornton was working on, it was dangerous enough that powerful people wanted it hidden. And Maria knew, Marcus said, understanding flooding through him. She knew who the father of her child was and what his research involved. She ran to protect Emma. "Or to hide what Emma represented," Sarah countered. "If Thornton's experiments were real, if he actually succeeded in enhancing cognitive function, and if Emma is the result, then she's not just gifted," Marcus finished. "She's proof that Thornton's work was successful. She's a living experiment that people would kill to study or suppress." The implications crashed over Marcus like a wave. No wonder Maria had erased her identity. No wonder she kept Emma hidden, discouraged testing, avoided attention. She wasn't just a protective mother. She was a woman guarding the most valuable secret in modern neuroscience. That evening, Marcus returned to Maria's apartment unannounced. When she opened the door and saw his expression, her face went pale. "You know," she whispered. "David Thornton," Marcus said. "Emma's father, the researcher whose work was buried. Maria, I need you to tell me everything." Maria's hands shook as she closed the door. Emma was at an after-school program giving them privacy. "How did you find out?" "I have resources, but that's not important. What's important is that Emma is in danger, isn't she? If the wrong people found out what she represents, they'd take her." Maria's voice broke. "They'd lock her in a laboratory and study her like she's not even human. David tried to tell me before he died that people were watching his research. Powerful people. People who wanted to use his discoveries for military applications or to create designer babies for the wealthy or—" She couldn't continue. Marcus sat down heavily. "Tell me about David. Tell me what he did." Maria took a shuddering breath. David was brilliant, obsessed with understanding the genetic basis of intelligence. He believed cognitive enhancement wasn't just possible, but inevitable. He ran experiments that the university didn't approve, used techniques that were questionable. I was just the night janitor. We shouldn't have even known each other existed. But you did. He worked late. So did I. We started talking. He was lonely. I was lonely. He told me things he shouldn't have told anyone. Maria's eyes grew distant. He said he'd made a breakthrough, that he could identify and activate dormant genetic sequences that enhanced neural plasticity, memory formation, pattern recognition. He said he'd tested it on himself and seen results, and then— She looked at Marcus. "Then he asked me if I wanted to be part of something world-changing." "He experimented on you," Marcus said, horrified. "No. He fell in love with me. We fell in love with each other. And when I got pregnant, he told me the truth, that he'd enhanced himself years earlier, and those enhancements would pass to our child. Emma wasn't an experiment. She was our daughter, but she would be. Different. What happened to David?" Maria's voice went flat. "His car went off a bridge 3 weeks before Emma was born. The police said it was an accident. David's colleagues said it was suicide, that he couldn't handle the ethics violations investigation. But David had been receiving threats. Someone knew about his private research, knew about me, knew about the baby. So you ran," Marcus said. "Changed your identity, hid Emma, made yourself invisible. I've spent 8 years cleaning toilets and living in poverty because it keeps us safe." Maria's voice rose. "No fancy schools where Emma would be noticed. No doctors who might ask questions. No permanent records anywhere that someone could trace. Every day I wake up terrified that someone will realize what Emma can do and come for her." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Maria, I'm sorry. For everything. For trying to humiliate Emma at the party. For investigating your past. For disrupting the safety you'd built." He met her eyes. "But you can't keep running forever. Emma is too special to hide, and she's too young to bear this burden alone. What choice do I have?" Maria whispered. "Let me help. Real help. Not money, not publicity. Protection. I have resources, security, lawyers. We can create a new kind of safety for Emma. One where she doesn't have to hide her gifts, but also doesn't have to be exploited." Marcus leaned forward intensely. David Thornton wanted to change the world with his research. Maybe Emma is his legacy. Maybe she's meant to show us what human potential really looks like. Maria shook her head. "You don't understand what people would do." "I do understand," Marcus interrupted. "Because I'm one of those people. I saw Emma as a puzzle, a threat, a phenomenon to be explained. But she's not any of those things. She's a little girl who deserves to be herself without fear." He stood. "Think about it, but know this. The video is out there. People are already asking questions. The secrecy you've built is cracking. We can either prepare for what's coming or we can wait for it to crash over us." After Marcus left, Maria sat in the dark apartment, her head in her hands. She'd spent 8 years running from David's legacy, trying to give Emma a normal life. But normal was impossible for a child who could speak 30 languages and solve equations that baffled mathematicians. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe the time for hiding was over. When Emma came home from her program, she found her mother crying. "Mama, what's wrong?" Maria pulled her daughter close. "Mija, I need to tell you about your father, and about why you're so special, and about the choices we're going to have to make." As mother and daughter talked late into the night, sharing secrets that had been buried for 8 years, neither noticed the black sedan parked across the street. Inside, 2 men in dark suits watched the apartment building, one of them speaking quietly into a phone. "Target confirmed. The Thornton child is here, awaiting instructions." The past Maria had run from was finally catching up. Dr. Patricia Chen's laboratory at UCLA was state-of-the-art, filled with brain imaging equipment that could map neural pathways in real time. She'd been studying savants and prodigies for 15 years, but she'd never seen anything like the scans she was reviewing now. Marcus had convinced Maria to allow preliminary testing. No invasive procedures, just cognitive assessments and brain imaging. After their conversation about David Thornton, Maria had reluctantly agreed that understanding Emma's abilities might be crucial to protecting her. Now, as Dr. Chen studied the results, her hands trembled slightly. "This is impossible," she murmured, zooming in on specific regions of Emma's brain scan. Marcus stood behind her, watching the colored images that showed neural activity lighting up like fireworks across different areas of Emma's brain. "Explain it to me," Marcus said. Normally, when someone learns a language, specific areas of the brain activate. Broca's area for speech production, Wernicke's area for comprehension. But Emma. Dr. Chen highlighted sections of the scan. Her entire cortex is hyperconnected. Neural pathways that shouldn't exist are functioning at adult levels. Her hippocampus, the memory center, is processing information at a rate I've never documented. It's like her brain is a supercomputer while the rest of us are using calculators. Is that because of Thornton's genetic modifications? Dr. Chen pulled up another screen, this one showing genetic markers. I'd need DNA from David Thornton to be certain, but yes, Emma has genetic sequences that are anomalous, mutations in genes associated with neural development, synaptic plasticity, memory consolidation. They're not natural variations. They're too organized, too purposeful. He actually did it, Marcus breathed. Thornton created a genetically enhanced child. He created his daughter, Dr. Chen corrected sharply. Emma isn't an experiment. She's a human being who happens to have extraordinary capabilities because her father's research was more successful than anyone knew. She turned to face Marcus. But here's what terrifies me. If Emma's abilities are genetic, they could theoretically be replicated. Someone with her DNA could potentially recreate Thornton's enhancements. She's not just a gifted child. She's a blueprint. The implications hung in the air like a thundercloud. That's why Maria ran, Marcus said. She knew people would want to use Emma for research, or worse. It gets more complicated, Dr. Chen said. I've been making discreet inquiries into Thornton's death. The official report says accident, but the insurance company initially suspected suicide. His colleagues describe him as paranoid in his final weeks, talking about industrial espionage and threats from a pharmaceutical company. Which company? Helix Pharmaceuticals. They funded his early research but cut ties when his methods became controversial. Rumor has it they wanted to weaponize his discoveries, create cognitive enhancements for military applications, or sell them to the highest bidder. Thornton refused and tried to shut down his research. 3 weeks later, he was dead. Marcus felt cold. You think they killed him? I think David Thornton knew something that made him dangerous, and I think that danger didn't die with him. It's living in an 8-year-old girl who can speak 30 languages. Dr. Chen's voice was urgent now. Marcus, if Helix finds out about Emma... The laboratory door burst open. 3 men in dark suits entered, flanked by 2 security guards. The lead man, 50-ish with silver hair and cold eyes, held up a badge. FBI, Dr. Chen, Marcus Blackwell, we need you to come with us. It's about Emma Torres. Marcus's blood ran cold. On what grounds? National security, the agent said. The child is a person of interest in an ongoing investigation into illegal human experimentation. We have reason to believe she's the result of unauthorized genetic modification, which violates multiple federal laws. She's an 8-year-old girl who's done nothing wrong, Marcus protested. Nevertheless, she needs to be brought in for evaluation, as does her mother. The agent's expression was implacable. Where are they now? Dr. Chen stepped forward. I'm not telling you anything without a warrant, and I'm certainly not helping you hunt down a child. The agent pulled out a folded paper. We have a warrant. For Emma Torres and Maria Torres, to be held for questioning regarding the research of Dr. David Thornton and possible violations of human subject research regulations. He looked at Marcus. Mr. Blackwell, we know you've been investigating the Torres family. We also know you've been in contact with them. You will tell us where they are, or you'll be charged with obstruction. Marcus's mind raced. Maria and Emma were supposed to be at the apartment. If the FBI was here, they'd already sent agents there. The black sedan he'd noticed last night parked across from their building suddenly made terrible sense. I want my lawyer, Marcus said. That's your right. But understand, we will find them. And when we do, Emma Torres will be taken into federal custody for her own protection and for study. Her genetic makeup is potentially a matter of national security. David Thornton's research cannot be allowed to proliferate without oversight. She's not research. Marcus's voice rose. She's a child. She's evidence, the agent corrected coldly. Evidence of illegal human experimentation, and we will have her. As the FBI agents escorted Marcus and Dr. Chen from the laboratory, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. They're coming for us. Thank you for trying to help. Tell the world Emma's story. Don't let them bury her. Maria. His stomach dropped. Maria knew. She'd seen the agents, understood what was happening, and she was running again. But this time, the whole world was watching. The viral video had made Emma famous. There was no disappearing now. In a motel room 30 miles outside of Los Angeles, Maria packed their few belongings with shaking hands while Emma sat on the bed, surprisingly calm. Mama, we can't run forever, Emma said softly. We have to try, mija. Those men, they'll take you away from me. They'll lock you in a laboratory. Maybe that's not the worst thing, Emma interrupted. Her 8-year-old voice was steady, more adult than it should be. Maybe it's time people knew the truth about Papa's research, about what I am. Maria stopped packing, tears streaming down her face. You don't know what you're saying. They won't see you as a person. They'll see you as proof that humans can be better, Emma finished. Isn't that what Papa wanted? He didn't enhance his genetics to become a superhero. He did it because he believed humans had untapped potential. He wanted to show what we could become. She took her mother's hand. I'm not ashamed of what I am. I'm only ashamed that we've had to hide it. You're 8 years old, Maria sobbed. You shouldn't have to be brave. You shouldn't have to sacrifice yourself. I'm not sacrificing anything, Emma said. I'm choosing. Papa's research shouldn't die with him. And I shouldn't have to spend my life pretending to be less than I am just because people are afraid of what I represent. Maria pulled her daughter into a fierce embrace, knowing Emma was right and hating it. Her baby had grown up too fast, forced into impossible wisdom by impossible circumstances. A knock on the motel door made them both freeze. Maria's hand went to the phone, ready to call 911, but then a familiar voice called out, Maria, it's Marcus. I'm alone. Please open the door. When Maria cautiously opened the door, Marcus stumbled in, looking disheveled and stressed. The FBI is looking for you. They have a warrant. They think Emma is evidence of illegal experimentation and they want to take her into custody. I know, Maria said. We saw them at the apartment. We ran. You can't keep running, Marcus said urgently. Listen to me. I've called a press conference in 2 hours. Every major news outlet. I'm going to tell Emma's story publicly. Her father's research, her abilities, everything. Once it's out in the open, the FBI can't just make her disappear. There will be too many eyes watching. That's insane, Maria protested. You'll destroy her life. She'll never have privacy. Never have a normal. She'll never have normal anyway. Marcus cut her off. But she can have protection. Public scrutiny goes both ways. Yes, She'll be famous. Yes, her life will be complicated, but she'll also be safe. No secret facilities, no government programs, no pharmaceutical companies doing God knows what. The world will know Emma Torres, and the world will protect her. Emma had been listening quietly. Now she spoke up. Mr. Blackwell, if you tell my story, you have to tell the truth. All of it. Not just that I'm smart, but that I'm lonely, that I've been hiding my whole life, that my father died trying to show people what humanity could become. She looked at her mother. And you have to tell them that Mama protected me when no one else would, that she gave up everything to keep me safe. Marcus knelt down to Emma's level. I promise. But Emma, you understand what this means? You'll be the most famous 8-year-old in the world. Scientists will want to study you. Religious groups might call you an abomination. Some people will see you as a threat to natural order. Your life will never be quiet again. My life has never been quiet, Emma said simply. There's been a hurricane in my head for as long as I can remember. At least now other people will understand why. Maria looked between her brilliant daughter and the billionaire who'd stumbled into their lives and turned everything upside down. She thought about David, about his dreams of advancing human potential. She thought about 8 years of running and hiding and fear. Okay, she whispered. Tell the truth. All of it. But promise me one thing, Mr. Blackwell. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens, Emma will always be treated as a person first, and a phenomenon second. Marcus met her eyes. I promise, and Maria, call me Marcus. 2 hours later, Marcus stood before a packed press conference at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and in the front row sat Maria and Emma holding hands. Marcus began. My name is Marcus Blackwell, and I need to tell you about the most extraordinary person I've ever met. Her name is Emma Torres. She's 8 years old. She speaks 30 languages. She can solve mathematical problems in her head that most adults need computers to process. She remembers everything she reads or hears. And she exists because her father, Dr. David Thornton, proved that human cognitive enhancement isn't science fiction. It's science fact. The room erupted. Marcus raised his hand for quiet and continued, laying out everything. Thornton's research, his controversial experiments, his relationship with Maria, his death 3 weeks before Emma's birth, the genetic markers, the brain scans, the years of hiding. Emma Torres isn't an experiment, Marcus said forcefully. She's a little girl who inherited her father's legacy, and that legacy is extraordinary, but it's also made her a target. The FBI wants to study her. Pharmaceutical companies would exploit her. People afraid of progress would silence her. So I'm asking all of you, journalists, scientists, citizens, to help me protect Emma while allowing her to be who she truly is. He gestured for Emma to join him at the podium. The 8-year-old walked up calmly, adjusting the microphone down to her height. The room fell completely silent. Hi, Emma said, her small voice clear in the microphone. Mr. Blackwell told you facts about me. Now I want to tell you how it feels. It feels like being alone in a crowd. It feels like having conversations in your head that no one else can understand. It feels like watching your mama work 3 jobs while knowing you could probably help if people just let you be yourself. She paused, gathering courage. My papa wanted humans to be better. Not better than each other, just better than we are. He thought we were selling ourselves short. And maybe he was right. Maybe I'm proof that people can be more than they think. But I'm also proof that being different is hard, and scary, and really, really lonely. Emma's voice broke slightly. I don't want to be famous. I just want to go to a school where I can learn things I don't already know. I want my mama to not be exhausted all the time. And I want people to understand that smart doesn't mean not human. She looked directly at the cameras. Papa died before he could meet me. But I hope wherever he is, he knows that his research wasn't wrong. He was just ahead of his time. And maybe now, the time is catching up. The press conference exploded with questions. Emma stepped back, and Maria wrapped her daughter in her arms while cameras flashed like lightning. Marcus fielded questions, announced he was establishing a foundation to protect and educate cognitively exceptional children, pledged his own fortune to Emma's future. And in federal buildings and pharmaceutical boardrooms and laboratories around the world, people watched the broadcast and made calculations. Some about protection, some about progress, and some about profit. The story of Emma Torres had only just begun. 3 months after the press conference, Emma sat in a specialized school for gifted children in Northern California, surrounded by other kids who were also different in extraordinary ways. For the first time in her life, she wasn't the strangest person in the room. The relief was overwhelming. Marcus had been true to his word. He'd established the Thornton Foundation for Cognitive Excellence, with Maria as an advisor and Emma as its inspiration rather than its subject. The foundation provided scholarships, funding for research into ethical cognitive enhancement, and legal protection for children whose abilities made them vulnerable to exploitation. The FBI investigation had concluded with no charges. Emma's genetic enhancements were ruled a private medical matter rather than a criminal violation, especially since David Thornton had experimented on himself first, and Emma was the unintended consequence of biology, rather than deliberate creation. The pharmaceutical companies had tried to claim rights to Thornton's research, but Marcus's lawyers had tied them up in litigation that would probably last decades. Emma was safe, and more than that, she was free. Marcus visited the school on a bright Tuesday morning in January. He found Emma in the advanced mathematics classroom, working on problems that would challenge most graduate students. She solved them quickly, then doodled in her notebook while waiting for the other students to finish. "Bored?" Marcus asked, sitting beside her. Emma smiled. "A little, but it's a good bored. I'm with people who understand what it's like to think differently. Yesterday I had a conversation with a 12-year-old about quantum mechanics. It was amazing. You don't miss your old school? I miss some friends, but I don't miss pretending." Emma looked at Marcus seriously. "Thank you for that, for making it okay to be myself." "You made it okay," Marcus corrected. "I just provided the platform." He pulled out a tablet. "I wanted to show you something. Dr. Chen has been analyzing your father's research papers. She thinks she might be able to understand how his genetic modifications work. Not to replicate them, but to understand the mechanisms. It could revolutionize neuroscience. Will she publish? With your mother's permission, and yours, when you're old enough to consent. Your father's legacy doesn't have to die with him, Emma, but it needs to be used responsibly." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Do you think Papa would be proud of me?" Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Emma, I think your father would be stunned by how brave you are. You're 8 years old and you've handled more pressure than most adults could bear. You've taken the gift he gave you and chosen to use it generously rather than hiding it or weaponizing it. That takes character that has nothing to do with genetics." "Mama says I get my character from her," Emma said with a small smile. "The smarts came from Papa, but the heart came from her." "Your mother is remarkable," Marcus agreed. Maria had enrolled in online college courses using the scholarship Marcus had provided. She was studying social work, planning to help other vulnerable families navigate systems that weren't designed for exceptional children. She'd transformed from a woman in hiding to a woman on a mission. The school bell rang, and students began filing out. Emma gathered her things. "Mr. Blackwell, Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "That day at your mansion when you tried to test me with Arabic, why did you do it?" Marcus had been expecting this question eventually. He'd dreaded it. "Because I was arrogant and cruel. I wanted to feel superior, and I chose someone vulnerable to make myself feel powerful. There's no excuse for it, Emma, it was wrong." "But if you hadn't done it," Emma said thoughtfully, "we wouldn't be here now. Mama would still be hiding. I'd still be pretending to be normal. Papa's research would still be buried. So maybe—" She paused, searching for words. "Maybe sometimes bad things lead to good things. Not because the bad thing was okay, but because people can choose how to respond." Marcus stared at this 8-year-old philosopher who was teaching him lessons he should have learned decades ago. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise," Emma said matter-of-factly. "I just wasn't allowed to show it before." She shouldered her backpack. I have robotics club now. We're building autonomous drones. Want to see? As Marcus followed Emma through the halls of the school, watching her interact naturally with other exceptional children, he reflected on how much had changed. The viral video had been viewed over 200 million times now. Emma's story had sparked global conversations about genetic ethics, educational inequality, and the nature of intelligence itself. Some religious groups had condemned Thornton's research as playing God. Some scientists hailed it as the next step in human evolution. Parents of gifted children reached out to the foundation daily, seeking help for kids who didn't fit traditional molds. Universities offered Emma future scholarships. Tech companies wanted to fund her education in exchange for, well, Marcus had made sure those offers were rejected. But the most important change was in Emma herself. The lonely, scared girl he'd met 3 months ago had blossomed into a confident young person who understood her worth. She still had challenges. Navigating fame at 8 wasn't easy, and some people would always see her as a curiosity rather than a person. But she also had community, opportunity, and choice. In the robotics lab, Emma's drone lifted smoothly into the air, navigating an obstacle course with precision that surprised even the instructor. Emma's face glowed with pure joy, the kind of happiness that came from doing something you loved without having to hide your abilities. Beautiful, Marcus murmured. Later, over coffee with Maria in the school's parent lounge, Marcus brought up something that had been weighing on him. I've been thinking about expanding the foundation internationally. There are probably other kids like Emma out there, maybe not genetically enhanced but exceptional in ways that make them vulnerable. Kids who need protection and opportunity. Maria studied him carefully. This has become personal for you, hasn't it? This isn't just about guilt anymore. No, Marcus admitted. Emma taught me something I should have known all along, that the most valuable things in life aren't the ones you can buy or sell. They're the things you discover when you stop trying to prove you're the smartest person in the room and start listening to the people you've been underestimating. He met her eyes. I was a billionaire when I met you and Emma, but I was poor in every way that mattered. Now I'm trying to figure out how to be wealthy in the ways that count. Maria smiled, the first genuinely warm expression she'd ever directed at him. That's quite a transformation for 3 months. I had a good teacher, Marcus said. A little girl who speaks 30 languages but taught me the one I'd forgotten, the language of humility. As the sun set over the California hills, Emma Torres walked out of school with her mother and the billionaire who'd accidentally changed their lives. She chatted about her day, about the friends she'd made, about the research project she was planning, about entirely normal 8-year-old concerns like whether they could stop for ice cream on the way home. To anyone watching, they might have looked like an ordinary family. But they were extraordinary in every way that mattered, not because of genetics or wealth or fame, but because they'd taken impossible circumstances and chosen connection over isolation, truth over secrecy, and compassion over judgment. David Thornton's legacy wasn't just scientific, it was human. His daughter proved that enhanced intelligence meant nothing without enhanced empathy, that cognitive gifts were worthless without the wisdom to use them well, and that the most important enhancement humans could achieve had nothing to do with genetics at all. It was the enhancement of our capacity to see each other as people first, and everything else second. 6 months later, the Thornton Foundation opened its first international branch in Mumbai. Emma gave a video speech at the opening ceremony, speaking in Hindi she'd taught herself in 3 weeks. She talked about her father's dreams, her mother's courage, and the importance of creating spaces where exceptional children could thrive without fear. The world listened. Not because Emma was a genetically enhanced marvel, but because she was right. And in a cemetery in Pasadena, a gravestone bore silent witness to a legacy that had finally found its voice, not in laboratories or academic papers, but in the bright mind and brighter heart of a little girl who'd learned that being different wasn't something to hide. It was something to celebrate. Marcus Blackwell, watching the ceremony from his office in Los Angeles, felt tears on his face. He'd spent his life accumulating wealth and power, convinced they made him significant. But significance, he'd learned, came from what you gave away, not what you held on to. He pulled out his phone and texted Maria. Tell Emma I'm proud of her. Tell her that her father would be too, and thank you for teaching me what richness really means. Maria's response came quickly. She knows, and you're welcome. Dinner this Sunday? Emma wants to teach you conversational Mandarin. Marcus laughed, typing back, I'll bring the takeout, but fair warning, I'm a terrible student. That's okay, came the reply. Emma's an excellent teacher, and patience is one of those enhanced traits David never planned for but happened anyway. See you Sunday. As Marcus returned to his work, real work now, meaningful work focused on educational equity and protecting exceptional children, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Contentment. Not the shallow satisfaction of another successful deal or another million in the bank, but the deep peace that came from knowing he was using his resources to matter in ways that transcended balance sheets. The little girl with holes in her shoes had walked into his mansion 3 months ago, and walked out having stolen nothing except his certainty that he understood how the world worked. In return, she'd given him something infinitely more valuable. A chance to be part of something bigger than himself. Emma Torres, 8 years old and speaking 30 languages, had taught a billionaire the most important lesson of all. Intelligence without compassion is just noise. Wealth without generosity is just numbers. And privilege without responsibility is just waste. True richness came from lifting others up, not from standing above them. And that was a language worth learning no matter how long it took.